what makes me so just fulfilled and happy now is just getting people out there on bikes. And I love putting on clinics. I love seeing people develop their skills, whether they're an expert or a beginner. I love seeing that excitement and that growth.
So joining us in the studio today is accomplished mountain biker, aspiring filmmaker, and all-around amazing human, Braydon Bringhurst. Braydon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it's good to see you. And it looks like you're taking this from the car today. Yeah. And yeah. Is it because just the house is just too crazy with your three kids?
Yeah, the three little girls are pretty loud, and I think I'd spare people the obnoxious screams, so I'm out in the car.
Smart move. I was going to tell you to silence all devices. I wasn't going to say anything about actual humans, but that I might have to add that to my script.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. I'm excited to hear your story and share that story with others. Before we jump into some of the more fun questions, let's just start from the beginning. You know, where were you born?
So I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and that's where I lived the first few years of my life, and then moved away, went back to Utah, and that's when I really got into BMX racing. So that was kind of the start of my love for riding bikes, was from just a super young age.
Right.
But yeah.
Growing up, what did your parents do growing up?
My parents have always been in the insurance industry, and so they fortunately have had really flexible careers, and they could I was the youngest of three. I have two older sisters, and they could really, I kind of was one of those kids that was bouncing off the walls, and my parents knew, like, if they didn't kind of channel me and guide me in productive things, I probably was going to get pretty far off track. So they had flexible career, and they were able to kind of keep me active and keep me busy in sports, and bike riding was one of those things.
Before bike riding, did you get into any other sports?
Before, bike riding was probably one of the first things that I did that I just loved. And then I ended up getting into ball sports a little bit, but I've always been just kind of a small dude. And so baseball, soccer, I was just so little that I never kind of caught on with a jam. I kind of always struggled and was just little. And biking was like the thing that I could just be me, my bike, and be crazy.
Right. And BMX was sort of the first jump into the sort of cycling thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is like little. I found a little BMX bike at a garage sale. It was like a little Magna. And he was see if they'll give it to you for $2. And I was like, okay.
Oh,
so I went and bought this bike for $2. And then my neighbor had the exact same bike that I bought for $1. And as I would break parts, I would have a replacement bike to supplement my little Magna BMX bike. But yeah, it was just one of those really simple little 16-inch like pedal back brake bikes that I just knew I loved riding a bike.
So you were just riding at the time. Were you at all interested in being competitive, or were you too young at the time still?
Yeah, I was too young. I just was having a blast hitting wood ramps in my front yard and riding to school and back. And, I think about it and it just cracks me up. I'd get up well before school, and I would go ride. And then, I would lock the bike up and go to school. And it just makes me laugh how now I enjoy still getting up super early and going and riding.
That's awesome. Well, did you follow the sport? Like, were there any heroes that were competitive, that you sort of watched their journey and were like, oh, one day I want to be like them?
So fast forward a few years, I did get into BMX racing and started traveling and getting competitive in that. and watching the pros ride, it was definitely, you know, kind of the OGs to me, which was like Mike Day and Bubba Harris,
Yeah.
uh, some of the OG BMX racer guys. And then,
Old school guys.
yeah. And then when I realized, like, and my good buddy, dear buddy, friend, brother is Mitch Ropolato. So
Yeah.
we would travel around the country together, and we were 3 years apart, so we never raced, but we were always out on the track hours before practice and hours after the race, just riding, coming up with triples, doubles, new lines. And the racing was kind of what we had to do, just to do the riding and travel.
Yeah.
So racing's always kind of been part of it, but yeah, I really have just had such a blast getting out and riding the bike, and racing is kind of what I had to do to get the support and ride all the different places. So
Yeah. Now you've moved away from Mitch, and you guys are in
yeah,
different states now, right? Where do you live now?
I'm up in Boise, Idaho.
And what brought you to Boise?
Oh, back in 2001, my parents needed to switch jobs, switch an opportunity, so we came up here, and this is kind of where I went to middle school, high school, and then and I continued to race BMX for a number of years. But in 27, I left and went on a mission for my church for a couple years, and then went off to college for 5 years. And me and my wife knew we wanted to get back to Boise because we love this place. We love the community, and it's just where I feel like I really grew up. And so we wanted to get back to Boise. And so that's where we're at, and that's where we're raising our kids and kind of digging in our roots and having fun with it.
Cool. Tell me about university. So where'd you go to college and what did you study?
So I went to Brigham Young University down in Provo, Utah. And I went there, fortunately, on a track and field scholarship.
Nice.
And, you know, I didn't necessarily love the sport that I was doing, which was pole vaulting. It was just so repetitious, the exact same thing over and over, but I learned so much. So I went there, and I knew that I needed to find something that I loved, because I've never been like the sharpest tool in the shed. So I needed to find something that I felt real passion for, that I could stand doing the homework, and that was filmmaking. And so it's kind of a risk getting an art degree, but I ended up getting a degree in documentary filmmaking, and just enjoyed it. Watched so many movies, learned story and how to have multiple layers to story, and yeah, that's what I studied in my undergrad. So it was a really, yeah, kind of crazy experience that I
That's
almost
cool.
I didn't even think I was going to go to college, to be honest, but it worked out.
That's cool. Congrats. Yeah. No, arts, it's interesting. I went to an art school too, and
Oh,
I
cool.
heard the same thing that, and people were scratching their head. They're like, art school, like, because when you say art school or you're studying the arts, people immediately think of fine arts or painting.
Right.
And I would agree that that career track is really hard.
Yeah.
But the technical arts
Yeah.
are a little bit easier to find opportunities in.
Mm-hmm. What was your point of emphasis? Like, what was your major?
I studied industrial design.
How cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's what brought me to SRAM a long time ago. But the art and design of making products look good and interact with humans, and so that's industrial design. It was great.
Oh, that is fascinating.
All right, so Braydon, you
Yes.
graduate with a degree, and where do you go next?
So I just, you know, kind of overwhelmed with what to do, because I'm I have an art degree, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to use this? Because I love filmmaking, And through my undergrad, I would go out and I would sell pest control in the summers so that when I was at school, I could focus on track and I could focus on my studies. And when I graduated with my undergrad, I was like, well, I don't have a job, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to sell the best I can one more summer. And I'd go down to California and sell pest control door to door. And we took basically all the money we had and we bought cameras, computers, and me and my wife started like a wedding photography and videography business.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. What was it called?
It was called Burst Media. And I really wanted to film biking stuff. And I asked Mitch, I was like, dude, can I film you? And we filmed a video in Salt Lake City. And the video just went crazy. Everybody loved it. And he's just ripping his Bronson down, all the crazy streets in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of like the first rush I got making a biking flick. And then I was like, well, what's next? What's next? And I knew I wanted to get back to Boise. And so come to Boise, have zero friends that bike ride. And I was like, well, I just want to get involved in the community. So I started doing like clinics and group rides and stuff. And then I knew that I wanted to, it felt like a stretch to me, but I knew I wanted to get my master's degree. And so I looked into the program and I fortunately got into an MBA program at Boise State. And I know that where you go to school is where your network is. And so I love Boise. I love this community. And going to school at Boise State was just a great networking tool, more than the education, really. And that's kind of just been all part of this growth that I've experienced with biking and bringing this passion to, mountain bikers of all types here in the valley with group rides, the festival, etc.
Yeah, so, yeah. Awesome.
Thanks.
Braydon, we're gonna move now to the sprint round here. I'm gonna throw a bunch of questions at you, side by side comparisons, and just to see what you prefer. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
All right, gloves or gloveless?
Big rides, gloves. Quick dirt jumps, no gloves.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Coffee or tea?
Probably neither.
Neither. Tacos or burritos?
Burritos.
Cold or hot?
Probably cold.
Like
cold.
Spicy or mild?
Mild. I get heartburn.
Pavement or dirt?
Dirt.
All right. I need to add like 10 more questions to that list. I like the list. I like where it's going, but I need more questions.
That's funny. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
All right. So you've graduated, you settled back in Boise.
Yeah.
You got your master's, your network's in Boise. You're starting to do film and riding. And how do you stitch together a career? Had you walked away from the wedding video business, or
no.
What do you do next?
Yeah. So I've always been kind of like, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket because I don't like how that makes me think or approach things. I like to do things that I want to do. And so there was no rush. There's no time crunch here on what I'm doing. It's just following just a passion of being part of this amazing cycling community and creating bike films or whatever that make me feel just stoked. Like I really appreciate mountain bike. I love mountain biking, and when I see a film that makes me want to go ride, I think, why do I want to go ride after I saw that? And so I try to make these films that hopefully get people wanting to get out there and ride their bike, whether you're a beginner or a pro. So
Right.
that and then yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like I enjoy it so much that I just kind of have figured a way out, figured a way to make it work, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, Braydon, you're a sponsored rider. You've got brands like Canyon and SRAM and RockShox and Zip all helping you out,
Yeah.
and they're helping you out to pursue this lifestyle career as a cyclist, but then also to create content. Before
Yeah.
we talk about the content, and I do want to talk about your film,
Okay.
tell me more about the sort of Braydon as lifestyle cyclist and cyclist. Are you going to events? Are you competing? Or are you just riding and creating content?
So for me, like, truthfully, and I know that the culture in mountain biking is racing, like racing, performance, results, and I 100% respect that, and I think that that's amazing. But for me personally, I feel like I've accomplished everything that I could ever want, performance wise, results wise, with skiing and biking and collegiate track and field. And I just,
Don't
I'm
forget pole vaulting. Don't forget
pole
pole
vault.
vaulting.
Yeah, pole vaulting. Like, what makes me so just fulfilled and happy now is just getting people out there on bikes. And I love putting on clinics. I love seeing people develop their skills, whether they're an expert or a beginner. I love seeing that excitement and that growth.
Yeah.
And so doing clinics, one thing that I've been really fortunate to be, kind of spearheading is the Boise Mountain Bike Festival. And it's just so cool because we have bike packers coming and being cheered by the people. And then we have adaptive riders doing group rides. We have the bike park party lap dudes crushing it. And we just try to make it as welcoming as possible. And like, to me, that just feels life-giving. Like, it gives me fuel. And then on the other side, I am being sponsored by these big, legit, to me, the top brands in the sport. And I hold that at a very, very high level that, like, I hold myself to on my riding. And so I'm out there training, I'm out there working on bike handling skills and being the best rider that I can be. And I want to produce stuff that, is legitimate. It's not just fluff. I want to be producing stuff that, a trained eye cyclist can watch and learn about and respect.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this fine balance of like, well, I know that I feel really good being involved in my community and and doing that, but I also realize that, like, I can't be a dud mountain biker. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta spend the time and respect the craft and be the best rider that I can be. So it's fun. It's a challenge for.
Okay, so that probably leads us into the next question, which is
Yeah.
the origin of 8,600 feet.
Yeah.
Tell us about that sort
Okay.
of concept. Where did it come from, and what's that all about?
So 8,600 feet is a film that I recently produced. It was 2 years in the making, and it was 1 year of conceptualizing, training, and executing. And then it was a year of editing it and piecing it together. And
Yeah.
what happened was, and this is going to come out after the film's released in 2016, my cousin Cody, he took his life. And I was with his brother the day before it happened. And I asked him, I said, "Where's Cody?" And he's like, oh, he's doing chores at his house. And I had a thought like, you should text him. And I didn't. And I got a call the next day saying Cody took his life. And
Mm.
I just remember that feeling. And in 2020, fast forward a few years, there was two cyclists in particular. One named Chris, who was a shredder, doing sick riding at the dirt jumps in Boise. And I just liked this guy. And he was probably 20. And next thing I know, I mean, COVID was hard and like people were pushed mentally. And he ended up taking his life. And then, like a month later, a father that had two kids did it again. And I was like, you know, like, I have nothing to hold back. Like, I want to do something that can hopefully just put something good in the world. And I've been fortunate to be super supported in my life. And riding a bike is like one of my talents. And so I wanted to do something big. And the whole enchilada, it's like it popped in my head because I had dabbled around on certain features. And I was like, I'm not an endurance athlete. And but I could, do bursty moves. And so I was like, I want to climb this thing, and I want to make a film about it that's more than just showing how I climbed it. So that was kind of the start of it, and so many people caught that vision. Like, we had a rider named Kim Cross, we had my endurance coach Greg Montgomery, my wife Nicole, Tori, the filmer. So many people that just caught the spirit of this thing, and we were able to make a full feature film, and we've showed it in two premieres. And I've had people come up to me with tears in their eyes saying like, that was so good. And I had like I was saying, I did track and field, and I had the privilege of working with a sports psychologist that's currently with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I flew out there and I interviewed him, and
Yeah.
and he's interspersed throughout the film, and he's not talking about me. My climb is the climb, but
Right.
he's putting in little bits of these mental things that help you work through struggles. And I just hope people can take that for their own mountains, and that's really my passion for it. And it's coming out for online for free. I don't want any paywalls. I don't want any, I don't need to enter it in film festivals. I just want to put something good out there for people. And like, I just hope it's good. And it's scary though. It is very scary putting myself out there.
Very, very touching, Braydon. But I'm curious though, the message really is, for sure it's inspiring people, but is a piece of the message also to raise awareness for people that might be struggling in one way or another, either through mental health or some other challenge? Like, is that the analogy you're making?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, it's a bike film, and it's, I think a pretty challenging feat of climbing the whole enchilada. It's got some crazy climbs on it, and it's 8,000 plus feet. And, it was a hard day on the bike, but I hope that people can take some of these things that are in it and use it for their own, their own mountains, because life is not easy at all. And
Right.
yeah,
So it's about overcoming obstacles, whatever that obstacle might be.
yeah, exactly. It's not really about the climb. I didn't use a bunch. I didn't really go into the ton of the training and a ton of the all of that. Like, it's way more about the mental component than the physical. But people see me struggling, and yeah, I hope it's good.
Well, that's great. Congrats.
Thank you.
I would like to know, though, sort of on the side here.
Yeah,
So climbing the whole enchilada isn't the normal route.
right.
And so inevitably there had to have been some close calls or some bobbles. Like, tell us about a section, and this will come out after the film is broadly released, so we won't spoil anything, but like, Tell me about a section that just was so hard you had to do it 10 times, or
Yeah.
you just couldn't quite figure it out the first time. Did anything happen like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie when I say I put my heart and soul into this thing. And like there was moments when I had been on this rock for 4 hours and completely exhausted and just had to just fight through any negative thinking. Like there's this feature called the snotch. And this thing it is so intimidating. And when all was said and done, it took me between 700 and 800 attempts
Oh,
and months of training in between those attempts. And like and then the toughest thing is I had to do that snotch at 4,000 feet into this ride after
right.
14 miles and 4,000 feet of grueling terrain before it. And I just like had to dig so deep and memorize my power outputs and how to go through these rocks and time my pedals. And like, it was so hard, but I'm
Wow.
so grateful it worked out. And I mean, yeah,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the
yeah,
snotch isn't meant to climb up. It's meant to ride down, right?
yeah, it's a series of switchbacks that's, pretty technical going down. I mean, most expert riders are having no issues with it. Um, but it's pretty consequential. Like if you fall, you're going to get pretty wrecked and you're out there a ways. Like you got a long ways down to the Colorado
Right.
River. So yeah, it's the toughest section going down, but, going up was, there was moments where I was so close to thinking this isn't possible. So
Wow. Dude, I can't wait to watch it.
thank you. I
I
hope you
can't
like,
wait to watch it.
thank you.
Braydon, we are almost out of time,
Okay.
and we will put in the show notes
Yep.
and down in the detailed description, like where people can find it. But
Okay.
if you had a website that you wanted to share, where would people go find the film at?
It will be on the website. It's 8,600, letters or numbers out, 8,600ftfilm.com. But it will also it's going to live and be on Canyon's YouTube channel. And so, that's where it's gonna be.
I'm assuming once it hits, the SRAM team and RockShox team and
Yeah.
Zip team will also spread it out
Yeah,
through
it was spread
social, right?
out, put it on where everybody would like. But yeah, that's where it will kind of live. And so, yeah, it'll be
That
exciting.
is awesome.
Thank you.
Braydon, keep up the great work. Keep making great content.
Thanks.
Keep inspiring others to ride and overcome their obstacles. It's been a pleasure having you on the show and hearing your story, and I can't wait to see the film.
Thank you so much, David. I appreciate it.
Have an awesome day and get back in there with those 3 little girls.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
All right, take care.
See ya.